This is Coder Radio, episode 221. It's a Friday edition for September 2nd, 2016. Everyone, and welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week, and sometimes, as a matter of fact, more often than every single week, why yes, folks, it's Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Happy Labor Day.
Hello.
Soviet.
Yes, hello, comrade,
Laborers.
and
right? That's what we're going for?
I guess, I think you might be onto something there. I hadn't really put a lot of thought into that. Yeah, it's a special Labor Day edition. It's Monday on a Friday. Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love Monday on a Friday? Everybody wants that. You know, you are, Mr. Dominic, you are a challenging co-host in so many ways. I mean, so many ways, but let's just start with the one that always gets me. Because I'm coming in today on a Friday to the studio, and I'm coming in a little earlier than I normally would, so traffic's heavier. And it's a bad day here in the Pacific North. Apparently, there's like some weather conditions on the East Coast, and it's causing a whole lot of rain over here. And I'm hydroplaning the whole way in here, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get into the studio and complain to Mike about how awful my weather is. And then it hit me that every single time I think I'm going to one weather up you have something going on in your neck of the woods that is 10 times worse than my weather.
Actually, it's partly cloudy and sunny.
Oh, are you sure? Because you might want to look out the window. Because I was just reading in the news that everything's about to be ruined in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, no, I see the sulfur now. Never mind.
So you don't have a
IBM Juniors?
You don't have a hurricane about to hit your coast? Oh,
we are about to get bitch slapped. Yeah.
Well, I hope everything's okay. Right, it's going to be Saturday.
Remember last time I said it was going to be okay? Sandy happened, so I'm going to say nothing.
All right. Well, Mr. Dominic, we have a little confession now. We do have the weekly challenge that sometimes is not weekly. This week it feels like we're not ready to call a winner because not everybody's even had a chance to listen to but if you're ready, I can roll with it. You tell me. What has the judge decided?
I actually was going to let it slide till next week because I didn't think it was enough time.
See, that's what I was thinking too, but I hadn't conferred with you, and I wanted to let the people know straight up because some of them are now listening on Monday, and to them it's a whole week later.
Yeah, I was just going to let it slide.
Okay, hey, Mike. Don't bring it up. Don't say anything, okay? We'll just pretend like it's not a thing, okay? Okay, shh.
I'm sorry.
Don't say that. I understand, too. You don't have a lot of time to worry about things like coding challenges because you're too busy boxing up and sending back your new Galaxy Note 7.
Oh, I never got it, actually, though I did get the SD card that came as the promotion.
What are you going to do, Mike? I mean, you just last week mentioned that you bought the new Note 7. And this is going to be like your big phone. Like, this is a nice phone. It's like the flagship phone for you that would probably last quite a while. Now what? I mean, the timing of this, it couldn't, it came out like almost 2 days after you announced on the show that you ordered one of these.
I just want to point out, like, I often go on Twitter rants about how battery technology is the only thing worth working on mobile. And people are like, no, you're just a curmudgeon. Just plug it in, get a car charger. It's fine. Batteries aren't a big deal. Blah, blah, blah. Physics, lithium ion. And then, Samsung ships you a little DIY bomb because the battery explodes. See what I'm getting at here? There's a real problem with battery technology. And I just don't. We've talked about this before, but why we need more effort into that, right? One, because lithium-ion batteries are just awful environmentally, and two, they don't work. They deteriorate over time, right? They don't hold enough of a charge. Granted, our desire to make things thinner and thinner and thinner is not helping us in some of these respects.
I really felt it over the summer where there was a couple of times where I was camping, so I couldn't plug my watch in or my phone in, and now it's like double. Now it's double whammy because both my wearable and my phone only really get by for a day.
Right. And my Nexus 5X does not last, excuse me, a day.
Really?
So,
Yikes.
yeah,
That's super frustrating.
this is an area, and the problem is this is a hard problem, right? I mean, it's well reported that, what is it, next week we're going to get an Apple announcement or new phone, or is it the week after? And the big thing is going to be a nicer camera. That's nice. Now, I will admit that I am not one of the big camera people, that I know a lot
But come on, when you got a kid, you want to...
Yeah, you know what? I care slightly more, but like the Nexus 5X is good enough. I just don't...
I disagree. Having owned the 5X, I disagree. But that's just maybe me. But for me, the problem with the 5X is the camera's not fast enough to actually capture the moment.
I haven't had a problem.
Oh, that's nice.
But again, I'm not a photography guy, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And if that's not a big priority too, then it really, then some of the back-end features of the 5X, like the back-end processing is nice. I think it's kind of just sort of funny timing, all of it.
No, it's hilarious, right? I mean, The Verge had a write-up where this was the flagship Android phone. Recode had it. I mean, they're the same company now, but the Next Web, all the big tech sites were writing about the Note 7, and then when they actually get in consumers' hands, they explode.
No, I'm sure it's only
literally.
Samsung says it's a very small percent. Now, that's that small percent, I believe, they're saying is the entire volume sold, which might be out of all of their phones, but.
A very small percent of all of them. All.
So you're going to send yours back?
I never got it. Actually,
I know, but
they stopped the.
I'm sorry. I thought it was still in the mail. Okay.
No, I don't know so I don't even know if I have an order or if they're just going to do whatever they're going to do.
Oh man, that's a bummer. You going to consider the phone next week when it gets announced?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, if I get the money back from Samsung, probably, right? Because I just can't take the Nexus 5X anymore. It's not enough battery life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, I got to be honest, I would probably be tempted just to get like a 6S or something, because why spend the money if they're just going to upgrade the camera? But this is turning into curmudgeon radio, not Coda radio.
Well, so let's move on. I just thought it was kind of funny because it's sometimes just roll of the dice with that kind of stuff. And to your point about battery life, I think it's a really good one. And I think it would be a game changer for consumers and for developers if the battery life in these things, as a Linux user, I don't have a lot of room to talk here because, oh my gosh, I've been thoroughly enjoying, and I'm not even being sarcastic, I legitimately have been really enjoying Linux on the 2013 MacBook Pro. I think it's maybe one of my favorite Linux computers now. I can't even believe it. But the one thing that is just astoundingly bad, and remember, it's a 2013 laptop, so it's not like it's got the best battery anymore. But under OS X, I can easily get 4 to 6 hours on the battery, easy, without making any major modifications, really. Just not doing any super CPU heavy stuff. And I think I get about an hour and 45 to 2 hours best case under Linux. So the battery life situation these days is just, everything else is advanced except for the batteries still feel like it's from the 90s or the 80s.
Well, to be fair, a lot of Windows PCs have that problem too, right?
It's the fundamental technology. It's heavy. It's not enough power. It's just, it's garbage, Mike. It's garbage. But you know what's not garbage? It's our friends over at DigitalOcean.com. Use our special promo code to support the show and get a $10 credit. That's Coder Digital. One word, lowercase, over at DigitalOcean.com. Simple, easy cloud hosting. You can spin it up in less than 55 seconds. You have a Linux rig, or if you want, a free BSD rig. Lots of different distributions, entire application stacks. You don't have to be a systems expert to work with DigitalOcean, or if you want, you can build from the ground up. In fact, they even have an HTML5 console that gives you really lots of nice flexibility and great power. You can watch it from post all the way up to boot. And they have data centers in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Toronto, Germany, India. But it's really that interface. It's just the best damn interface in the business. Nobody beats it, and they match it with a fantastic API. They've got great documentation, and something I don't mention a lot, they also have great tutorials. Really good stuff, like setting up GitLab, even securing it with Let's Encrypt, all of that. DigitalOcean.com. Just use our promo code CoderDigital, and a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Coder Digital, all one word, lowercase. We had some interesting feedback come into the show last week about speaking of curmudgeon radio, and just to round off the phone stuff really quick as follow up to our Android N discussion. We were kvatzing about the fact that the Nexus 5 has been dropped and will not have Nougat support, and it looks like it's actually bigger than Nougat. It looks like it's anything with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 or 801 CPUs. Qualcomm is not releasing graphics drivers for either the 801 or 800 CPU, so the HTC One M8 and other devices based on said processors won't get official Android 7 support. Going deeper, it sounds like it's some sort of odd refusal to support Vulkan on behalf of Qualcomm in their system on their SoCs, which Vulkan is a new high-performance 3D graphics standard. And Qualcomm says, quite simply, the SD800 and 801 are not compatible with Vulkan, therefore
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. This is kind of weak.
Well, to be honest, I think this is a pretty simple but good story, especially for kind of us doing the whole tech media thing where it's really easy to blame Samsung or HTC when they don't update their phones. But the reality is, one, they don't want to. But even if they wanted to, like it sounds like HTC might sort of want to. If any one of the third-party components that make up those phones, right, because, very little of the phone is made by the person who sells it to you, cannot, for whatever reason, either driver incompatibility, because yes, all these things have drivers, work with the new OS, then you're sunk, right? I mean, then one chip can bring down the whole phone. Now, in the case of a Qualcomm chip, that's like the heart and soul of the phone, right? I mean,
yeah, it's still as a consumer. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying from a technology standpoint and a business dynamic standpoint. From a consumer standpoint, it sure smells like bullshit to me because Qualcomm chips are in Apple devices. Qualcomm chips are in all kinds of other vendor devices, and yet somehow those vendors manage to strike out deals with Qualcomm.
I mean, are you blaming Qualcomm for this or Google?
I guess I would actually probably place blame on Google for not striking the right deal to ensure this doesn't happen.
Right. No, that's what I would say too, because they're pushing Vulkan hard and they're not incentivizing people, which, let's be clear, I mean, give them money.
I also want to be clear that I think Vulkan is a big enough technology deal that it is worth ending support on a 2013 phone. I mean, I think that's valid. Or 2014.
It's also probably worth a consumer just buying a new phone.
Right.
And I'm sure that's the calculus that Qualcomm and HTC have made.
And Googs. But my point remains that I don't mean to go all Johnny Ives here, but it seems obvious to me that there is a clear platform advantage and one that is preferable for the consumer with Apple's approach here. Because Apple single-handedly is controlling the entire hardware stack. They're the one and when they don't make the chip or they don't own the IP behind the chip, they obviously have some sort of agreements in place that allow them to support their iOS devices. I mean, they're putting iOS 10 on the 5 or whatever it is, or 5S. It's ridiculous. It's like from 2012, and it's going to support iOS 10.
The older devices really don't run well in newer versions of iOS.
But as a developer, it solves so many problems for creating applications for these platforms. Like these Nexus devices. Think about it, Mike. I don't know.
But I wouldn't downplay hardware differences. I would not downplay. Let's just take like the A6 versus the A8 chip. That's a big difference. Right?
And the rumor is the iPhone 7 may have a 50% increase in performance based on Geekbench. Yeah.
RAM, right? I mean, you might give me the same API, the same software compatibility, but in fact, I just recently had to support something on an iPad 2.
I know it's horrible. Yeah, I know.
It was like. Sure, right? It was within the band of supported versions of iOS, but there's all these little memory hacks because the damn thing kept running out of memory. That I don't know. I mean, I kind of have to be honest. I don't want cases like this for the Android manufacturers to support the older phones because there is a big disadvantage in underpowered. So. Let's just take it a step back. The reason it doesn't work is because of Vulkan, right? The new graphics rendering.
That's what we're led to believe from fairly reliable sources.
Right. And it makes sense. It seems like, it works. So this is not going to affect, this is really a thing for game developers, video content, things like that. Would you want, if you're a game developer, to have to support these older underpowered devices through some sort of shim or some sort of weird peppering over?
No, I think I mean, I think simply just honestly, Mike, it seems like it's a Play Store problem, not an OS level problem. It seems like you ship the OS on the 5, but you just simply don't make the apps that require Vulkan available in the Play Store for installation. And it's not the first time they've ever done that. I guess so here's what I do like about what you're saying, because what you just made me realize was this is the benefit of Android in the big picture sense, is that Google's strategy goes beyond any one particular piece of hardware, any one particular group of consumers, any one particular strategy. The Android platform as a whole gets moved forward regardless of any time there's a little bit of an issue like this. It's not worth holding the entire platform back because of these one phones, whereas perhaps Apple makes strategic decisions not to do certain things simply because their older hardware won't support it. We never know that. But it's possible.
I don't think that's true, right? I mean, you hear about how crappy the lowest end supported iPhone always runs with each update.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So my point is it seems like they could have fixed it in the Play Store and still made it available for older devices. And the reason why I would like this is it's multi-parted. One, the open source enthusiast in me would love to see older hardware supported that's really gotten a lot of market penetration. And there's a lot of other alternative ROMs available for like Ubuntu Touch and Sailfish. And it'd be nice if people could also play with the latest version of Android on this device.
Come on, like,
I know that's not a big market. I'm just saying, but from an overall platform standpoint, I think it's really important that for them to show that it isn't a risk to buy into the Android ecosystem. You're not going to potentially just get left behind because one of the chip vendors, one of perhaps 100 chip vendors in that phone, decides not to support something in the next version. That is a house of cards for each device you buy, and it gives me, as a consumer who wants to buy. So when I buy phones, I might use them myself for 6 months to a year personally, but then I give them to people in the company, or I give them to my children or family members. Like the phones continue to be used for years, like 5 years after I've used the phone is not unexpected for any of these devices. And it feels like every time I buy a Nexus device, and I buy a lot of them because I'm trying to test stock Android, talking about it on this show, like it feels like I'm rolling the dice. Here's another Android device I now have. Now that's two Nexus phones that go in the box that I can't install updates on. It's a bit of a bummer. I'd like to be able to say that when I buy the Google device, I'm getting something that I know has a long lifetime and good support cycle and is going to get security updates. I would like to be able to say that. Can't really say it. Now, if they drive the prices down, if they bring these things down to $300, $250 all the time, that's more palatable. But the rumors are, there's a rumor today that they may be killing the Nexus line completely and launching the next set of phones as Pixel phones, and they're going to up the price as Pixel devices for the mass market.
All right, so you have a lot there to unpack, right? You have like 3 or 4 things.
It's because it's personal. It gets personal.
Right. So I'm going to go right down the list here, Dan Lyon style. I'm going to look at you like you're a HubSpot middle manager, and I'm going for it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Strap in, Trotsky. Get your poor Trotsky, by the way. Man can't get a job. Although he did get a job. You can find him on LinkedIn.
Now, you want to talk about somebody who's not going to be getting a job? Well, that's Anthony Weiner. But anyways, moving on.
I heard he's actually starting a webcam.
He should.
It's like the natural progression. No, okay. So first off, any scenario where the Play Store like filters out apps based on Vulkan seems like a nightmare.
No, you just base it. You just base it on no. They do it now, Mike. They do it now. Sorry, go ahead.
They base it on screen size, and they base it on hardware capabilities as well as the OS version, right? And I think that's something that users understand. Are you suggesting that Vulkan would then be a third category?
Well, no, I think just the Nexus 5 hardware.
I mean, you're in PC territory now, right? Now you're saying that your phone does not have enough, gigajoules, right? Because this is what the user hears.
They could still install OpenGL games.
Okay, so now my game is going to be on OpenGL and Vulkan?
No, I don't, because here's the reality. This is the beauty of it. The Nexus 5 market isn't so big that you as a game developer really have to worry about it. It's just simply, So I got an email. Okay. I guess here's what made me rethink this whole thing. Is I got an email from a guy who said, my company has 500 Nexus 5s. This is This is the phone we standardize, and we are so screwed by this because security is a huge deal, and doesn't want me to say the company's name because, again, security is a huge deal, but they work in security. So this is something that's it's part of their brand image for them. And that's a big deal. And that made me go, God, this really does it's not just me who can't give my kids a Nexus 5. It actually is really impacting some companies out there because this was their fleet phone.
Well, also the Army moved away from Android phones and is moving towards the iPhone, right? That was covered in Ars Technica a couple weeks back. For this reason, right? The software reliability and security issues. But that issue has existed the entire time, right? That is not new in Qualcomm not supporting Vulkan.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess I was just hoping the Nexus line would break that trend. I don't mean to beat this. We should probably move on.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know you love to beat it. Second of all, the Vulkan killing the Nexus line, which was your other complaint, I think they have to be honest with you. Even though I love the Nexus phones, other than this Molotov cocktail known as the Samsung Note 7. There's not a lot. That was mean. That was
good though. That's good.
I could have called it a Korean car bomb. That would have been too far.
You just did.
If your local FedEx guy disappears, you know what happened. Anyway, moving right along. There's just not many impressive Android devices on the market. I mean, name 3 impressive Android tablets that are within the last year and a half.
My favorites have been the Nexus tablets. And the 7's been discontinued support-wise. And then 10, the Nexus 10, I don't even know if that's...
a year and a half. Yeah.
You know who I think, although I don't have any personal experience, has made one of the best Android tablets would be NVIDIA, but I don't...
The gaming one, right, the Shield. Sure.
Yeah.
You see a problem, though, right? Where there's... Well, on one hand, Android's a huge percentage of the market, and there's a lot of competition. It's like the Eatontown Little League team is playing the New York Yankees, i.e. everybody else against Samsung. And until Samsung decided to start, committing acts of terrorism by making their phones into weapons, I can't stop. I cannot stop.
You're on fire.
Oh.
No.
This is an explosive topic. Maybe, and I got to be honest, this is like Christmas for Apple. They're releasing a phone in a week. And I know Samsung's flagship, and frankly, Google's flagship, right? Because really, the whole Android ecosystem kind of rides on the coattails of Samsung. Turns out to, frankly, be a bomb.
All right, and I don't mean to make this a pile-on, but
pile it on, baby.
N has not been great, and I'm not alone. I was talking with my buddy Chase, who also has the 6P with Android N. And there are Bluetooth audio issues. There are problems with the alarm clock, which seems super basic. And the big one is there's the changes, which I think long-term are for the better, but the changes to the notifications are not supported by any of my apps. And so I'm getting the weirdest kinds of things, like my screen pulses on and off constantly to the low power mode to off, low power mode off, because I have some old school Android notification that doesn't go away, but it's when I'm in my truck, it connects to my nav, and so I don't really want to disable it, but at the same time, because it's persistent, it keeps causing my screen to wake up. Nothing works right with the notifications. And
no, don't even get me, because I've been looking a lot about tablet computing and mobile computing. Don't even get me started on all the cute, cool little split screen features on the tablets in Nougat. Oh, but there's no tablet you would actually want to buy.
Yeah, so I don't mean to pile on now, because I feel like in 6 months these complaints I have are going to be totally smoothed out. But right now, I feel I'm primed for for next week's event, which is going to be in 2 days by the time this episode airs.
Yeah, one thing I don't like is how Samsung's handling this whole Note 7 issue. I did not get an email saying, hey, your order will be X weeks late, or would you like a refund, or here's a refund.
Is that Samsung's fault, or is that who you bought it through?
I bought it from Samsung.
Oh.
Directly, which has been a terrible buying experience.
Jeez, dude.
I didn't get an order confirmation, but I got charged, and then I did a support thing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, your order." And then I got the FedEx of the SD card. It's just ridiculous. I got to be honest. If they were like, "Yo, do you want the refund?" I'd say, "You know what? Let me get back to you after the Apple event, and we'll see if it's just worth it."
So imagine for a moment, and this is just for fun. Imagine for a moment that Google announces Pixel and Pixel XL. And it's 2 different Android devices.
Terrible names.
Yep.
Awful.
Yep.
Truly bad.
Maybe they have something with the screen that makes maybe it makes sense. Maybe it connects it all in. Hopefully it's not just them reusing the Pixel brand.
They must have hired HubSpot. Keep going.
But picture for a moment that Google takes all of the lessons of the last 8 years and they work out a deal where every carrier can get you the Pixel phone, and it takes off like crazy.
Basically, the Pixel's the iPhone is what you're doing.
It becomes the Android iPhone, and it really puts Samsung in its place, and really just becomes. And I'm talking years, Mike, here, but this becomes the premier Android device. This, in my estimation, solves so many problems for developers if this is the case. Assuming it gets updates for at least 3-4 years, assuming it's got, a really clean, efficient Android experience that actually gets great battery life, that doesn't have like a 3-minute boot up like the Samsung devices do. All of these it's USB-C. I mean, USB-C takes off everywhere, and every phone could be charged with USB-C. I mean, think about the possibilities if Google pulls this off, and they're rich. They have a freaking advertising platform. They have content deals. They have business deals. They have telco deals. If anybody is nobody's in a better position than Googs, though. Think about it, Mike.
So you need to be taken down a few pegs here. Let's just start
but this would make, I think, Android the mecca development environment of mobile if this were to happen.
Yes, and you know what? The Surface phone would be great too, as would the Ubuntu phone that becomes ubiquitous. Convergence, right? So one of the big selling points of the Nexi were that they were cheap. This device you're describing would not be cheap. 2, the Pixel's a terrible name. 3, would it really be in every carrier and Best Buy and every retailer? Do they really want to promote that? Oh, also, what does that do to Google's partnerships with, carriers? And let's be honest, the only one that matters is Samsung. Would
You're
Samsung
right.
not just be like, all right, so Tizen?
Yeah, you're right. And the real nail in the coffin is the whole support thing.
The nail in the coffin is like Google can't try to be Apple in this case. You know who benefits? Apple, because they'd be like, okay, we're already Apple. We're good at being Apple. Let's just let them.
Hey, we can do this.
Copy us.
Yeah. Okay, you're probably right. Damn it.
Every time Google tries that, remember the Nexus Q, which I thought was awesome, and they canceled the day they were going to give them out. Right? It was supposed to be their high-end kind of product. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So you're not buying this Pixel rumor thing at all, are you?
Oh, it may be something that they want to do or that they did. I just don't think it's going to be a material difference.
They say it's going to be they're going to drop the Pixel or the Nexus line. The Pixel will be the 5-inch sailfish device by HTC, I think, and the Pixel XL will be the 5.5-inch Marlin.
I mean, the only traction they could get is if they with a Google Fi and they put it on payments like they do the Nexus 5 X now, right? So that you're not paying that $600-700 right up front. But even then, you still have to want to buy Google Fi, and have to know about it.
That would be interesting.
And also, are the carriers going to be in love with shipping a Google phone now that Google has a competing carrier?
Well, it's
the channel conflicts are like everywhere here, right? This is kind of. I don't know, man.
Hasn't stopped them before, though. I'm just gonna say that. All right, fine, fair enough. Yeah. I guess I didn't intend for us to talk about it that much, other than we did get some feedback on it and some interesting points were made. So I guess it's worth covering, especially it just seems like this time last year when Apple was about to release iOS 9 and the iPhone 6, the Android ecosystem was seeming like it was more cohesive at the moment, and it was clear what Google's strategies were.
This season should have been a big win for Android based on everything we're hearing about the iPhone. And really this manufacturing issue with the exploding Samsungs is, I mean, this is saving the iPhone 7. Not that the iPhone 7 is a bad device, but it was, you've seen the rumors, right, Chris? It's going to be a boring device.
Why don't we do the rumors here in a little bit? Let's do it, because by the time this okay, but first let's talk about some other stuff. Let's transition, because this is bringing it back to developers, Apple related. You wrote a great post over at Buccaneer.io that Apple might pull your app, and this steams me up. And I think you like this, and to me, gosh, Mike, I have thoughts, but can you kind of summarize what's going on and what you think about it?
Yes. So Apple is going to start reviewing apps that are currently live on the App Store. So you don't even have to submit an update for this to happen. And if it has not been properly maintained, they have some guidelines on what that means, but which is probably not worth going into here. One, not looking modern is one of them. They will send you a notice, and if you don't respond, they're going to remove your app. There's not a lot of details on how quickly this will happen, but they said they are going to start reviewing them immediately. So this process is presumably happening, this month. Certainly, and from a business perspective, certainly Q4.
So I guess I like it. Okay. All right. That actually seems pretty reasonable. Here's the one thing that does sort of suck a little bit. There are some really nice iOS apps that are ugly, that were built for iOS 4, or something just awful in terms of UI, but all I need them to do is ping something or scan a Wi-Fi network. There's just a couple of utility apps that I have that are still compatible. They're just using the same APIs that were there since iOS launched for developers. And I worry that some of these relics that might not be maintained but are still useful will be taken. And the thing is, if this was really my device, if this was truly something I owned, I should always be able to install tools like that. Even on my desktops, I have stuff like that. It's still binary compatible, still does the job. It's just something really quick and simple. It's a nice tool to have. That's the only thing I worry about really with this kind of stuff, is those kinds of things might go away, and then I have no repercussion.
Yeah, though, I have to say, I talk to a lot of people who kind of see doing a mobile app as a kind of a one-night stand sort of situation, where they're going to pay, X amount of dollars, ship it, and never worry about it.
See, that I think does damage long-term to a company.
To the ecosystem. And I
well, to a company too. You don't want to have your company's brand associated with some app that looks like it was designed for a platform 5 years ago or no longer connects to the services it's supposed to connect to. That's embarrassing for your company.
I totally agree, right? The Facebook SDK changes, they really, and this is something I really, really try to impress upon people. These things are living pieces of software. They have to be maintained. And I think we've just hit a point where Apple presumably is starting to feel like, hey, this is starting to devalue the App Store, or at the very least just look bad, right?
And they want the App Store to not be a junk place. They don't want it to be a dumpster of old apps. They want it to be clean, and they want search to be easier and all these things. And one of the ways you do that is getting rid of old stuff that isn't maintained. So I grok the overall concept, and I think all of the app stores out there, even the smaller ones, should probably do this from time to time.
I kind of wish the Play Store would do this, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't like it when I download an app and it looks like it's, 2.2 or whatever.
I going back to notifications, it's a double burn. I've been installing apps. I've installed 2 apps recently. One was a cool little physics game, like a Mars Lander game. And the other was a watch face for my Android Wear. And both of them started sending me daily notification spam about ads, for their stuff or other apps. Well, it's just such a mess sometimes. So you can also go too far. There is like the companies overdo it, and that's definitely it. So they have to. I don't know what that line is. If the line is when there's major platform changes, we nudge our app. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's not abandon it, not just ship it once and leave it. And it's not, let's send daily notifications to our user base, because both of those suck really bad.
Well, yeah. In terms of this whole Apple's going to remove your app thing, we're actually going to go ahead or I'm offering just like a free evaluation of your app as it is on the store to say, what would you need to do to come into compliance? And we're defining compliance as, API compatibility, removing certain deprecations, and the biggest one, human interface guidelines, right? Apple's design guidelines, because they're tremendous ponies about that.
And that that is a super reasonable approach to just getting a little more bang out of your investment that you've already made. You've already got the app built. Why not just nudge it, get it working right?
Well, and the truth is, for most people, because obviously before I made the software, I took a quick look at the store. It's not a tremendous amount of money involved or a tremendous amount of work. But not doing it could actually, you're throwing away your investment if you let Apple pull your app down.
Exactly.
That's kind of why I think you should do it.
Smart. All right. Well, I had a quick thing before we get into the rest of the show. We had some fun feedback too. And this is going to be short. This was one of those headlines that did actually manage to get my attention. In 1 minute, Slack founder will make you rethink how to sell innovation. This is from him. He says, we are unlikely to be able to sell a group chat system, quote unquote, very well. There just aren't enough people shopping for a group chat system. Because, when you talk about Slack, to people who don't know it, it sounds like an IRC. He says, that's why what we're selling is organizational transformation. What we are selling is not the software product, the set of all of the features in their specific implementation, because that there's not very many buyers for this type of software product. However, if you're selling a reduction in the cost of communication or zero effort knowledge management or making better decisions faster or all your team communications instantly searchable, available wherever you go, or even 75% less email, or some other valuable result of adopting Slack, then we find many more buyers. I think that is an interesting way to think about your software. Because everybody, when they look at it from when you talk about Slack to Alan Jude, he'll go, well, I don't know. I'll just use IRC. Thank you. I don't see the point. And in some ways for him, maybe IRC is efficient enough. But then for some of us, we find, I was just looking at our Slack stats for the Linux Unplugged show, because of its sort of unstructured nature, and it's also got multiple hosts and producers involved and Mumble members, one chat room where we can embed YouTube and Twitter links and Google Docs and text snippets with links and all of this kind of information that you might want in preparation of a show that might go for 2 hours like Linux Unplugged does sometimes. Something like Slack is extremely useful. And it does offer us it is definitely fundamentally changed the way we prepare that show every single week. And it's pretty fascinating because we've had IRC this entire time and it never resulted in this level of communication. And when you sell that, that's what really clicks with business owners and people who are in decision-making positions. So I just thought it was, and there's more. We have the whole article linked in the show notes. I just thought that was interesting for people out there that are thinking about how to sell their value.
It's definitely good because people don't understand why they might want a DigitalOcean Docker container, but they do understand. Would you like to collect more customer emails that go to your conference, and you'd like to sell them things?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. They do understand 75% less email. And even though the implementation is a chat room, selling the result, that to me I find to be interesting.
Though it hasn't been true in this particular case.
Right, as all things correct, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's made. You notice I mentioned one of our shows. We have more than one show. It's worked great for one show, but yeah, it's different environments, different teams. It's not always the best tool to go with, or the best method or approach. Sometimes you try to fit, and you don't need it. So, anyways, you know what you do need? Knowledge, and power. Because you know what? Knowledge is power. linuxacademy.com/coders. That's where you go to support the show and learn more. Many of the topics we talk about are available as educational courseware over at Linux Academy. They have learning paths that get you right down the channel to learn more than really just something you might pick up on your own searching around. It's kind of like this all-inclusive offering where they have comprehensive study guides, virtual servers that spin up when you need them, instructor mentoring, a community packed full of not only your peers, but Jupiter Broadcasting members, which is pretty cool. And they're constantly updating and keeping their content relevant, introducing new courseware, like they just got a great new line of Azure courseware. Introducing all of that as you need it, but not just letting the old stuff sit there, keeping that current, fresh, and up to date as well. Linux Academy has been expanding their staff behind the scenes to make all of this possible. It's a pretty competitive platform, but the best part is the things they cover here aren't just a feature of Linux Academy. It's what they do. There's other online platforms, but all of these things are just part of their overall offering. They don't really get it. They don't focus in and really expand. Plus, Linux Academy understands not all of us have a lot of free time. That's why they have availability planners that automatically generate courseware that matches your schedule, nuggets that allow you to deep dive. Yes, they're called nuggets that allow you to deep dive into single topics and learn more. And they have iOS and Android apps. So if you're on the bus or on the go or got a little time to kill, Linux Academy is with you. Check it out at linuxacademy.com/coders. That's where you go to support this show and learn more about the Linux Academy platform. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. linuxacademy.com/coders. Well, Mr. Dominic, I have sensed a thread this entire episode. We are both preoccupied with mobile this week for multiple reasons, and sometimes that you know what? To be fair, it is reality. It's the news. I don't think sometimes we get a little hard on ourselves and we pretend like it's not a huge part of the development environment, and we pretend like it doesn't affect everybody who listens because
you mean when people write us angry emails?
Yeah,
that you're talking about?
Yeah. So I suggest that you and we acknowledge that elephant in the room and we move forward, because by the time people are listening to this, it's going to be moments away from Internet Phone 7 Day. It's a September 7th event with a out-of-focus bokeh invite of the Apple logo has sent out. There are lots of rumors, and I'm curious to know what you think is going to launch on September 7th. Not necessarily ship, but be announced for availability at some point.
Well, obviously the iPhone 7, right?
Yeah.
I don't know or think we're going to get any kind of iPads, actually. I'm hearing a lot about Apple Watches. I honestly don't care. Though I did hear some disturbing news in the last few days that there won't be a MacBook Pro. Because
that seems egregious.
That if that's true, it's almost so bad that I don't really believe it. But if that's true, that's kind of insane. Like, even if you don't have it, announce it, right? Show some pictures, do something to. It's just been way too long, and that's a workhorse of so many industries.
I don't understand, because I know there's totally different industries, totally different workloads, so it's not a fair comparison. But I watch System 76, who's just refreshed their 2 top-of-the-line laptops, and they now have GTX 10 series graphics cards in them. And they just, I think they go up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. And all of these things that I think, wow, for high-end workloads, Apple is being lapped now. I mean, the hardware, they're just getting lapped. So if they...
In 5 or 10 years, someone's going to write a book about this period, about what the hell happened to the Macs, right? Like, at this point, it's either an insane amount of neglect. I was listening to Walt Mossberg earlier today, a pre-recorded episode from a few days back ago. And, he was saying that the Mac business itself would actually be in the Fortune 500.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Forget about the iPhone. Like,
if you just broke it out as its own company, I know.
If it was just like Mac Incorporated, and yet they cannot manage to update these devices in 3 years running, which is incredible. I mean, think about the Mac Mini, which, a lot of small shops, this one included, it is the standard, like, here's your gun and badge, right? Everybody gets Mac Mini. Or the MacBook Pro, right? Those are kind of the two workhorses.
Yeah.
The MacBook, the crazy gold, silver Boy George one, is just not practical in any meaningful sense, right? You can't plug in a test device and charge it. Oh, and USB-C.
Last year, this time, Apple was making $6 billion from their Mac business. This year, they're making $5.2 billion this time for this quarter, because simply nobody wants old hardware like this.
Sure, but hire somebody. Is there not like a VP of Mac who could just like, come, all right, guys, we need to like ship something? And to their credit, they shipped the 5K iMac, but again, that's a huge investment, the 5K iMac. A lot of people don't want a 27-inch iMac. I used to have a 27-inch iMac, and the reason I don't buy them anymore is because if something's wrong with it, it's a 27-inch thing. Can we
challenge the premise for a moment?
Sure.
I have a 2000. I know I just mentioned this a minute ago. I have a 2013 MacBook Pro. It's got an i7 in it. It's got a 15-inch Retina display. It's got a PCIe terabyte SSD in it. I mean, the thing, honestly, Mike, the only thing I wish it had was a GTX 9 or 10 series graphics card. Otherwise, it is a hell of a machine. And the only time I need to have a faster one is when I want to start doing on-location broadcasting and doing multiple audio and video feeds. And then it starts to feel a little behind. But I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, is legitimately, do we really need these computers to be much faster unless you're gaming for Mac workloads? Because gaming isn't a main thing for Macs. Aren't they legitimately good enough for the most part?
So I'm going to answer your question with a question. If you are stocking up or equipping a small team, do you want to spend, $2,000 to $3,000 per unit? Or would you rather, because things are uncertain, spend $1,000 to $1,600 today, and if you have to buy another one in a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you pass that laptop
Yes.
or desktop down to like a salesperson or a QA person, right?
Absolutely.
I got to be honest, even for my personal machines, I don't ever buy the top of the line because it's too expensive. My Raytel, I did like 2 upgrades. I mean, it's a desktop tower, so it was only like, I don't know, $700. I don't remember what I paid for it, but I really don't, especially with the RAM glued in and the fact that you can't update these machines at all in terms of hardware upgrades. I really don't think it's reasonable to say to people, well, you could have bought a $3,200 one and then you would have been fine for 3 years. That seems super crappy to me.
You're right. The implied, yeah, because if you buy at a lower end price, it really does feel old because they're barely spec'd well enough as it is.
Well, and wait, lower end, $1,600 is low end for a computer.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, that's kind of what my issue would be there, right? You inside of all of that, you have implied that a $1,600 laptop budget is not a reasonable budget, which I find really troubling given the rest of the market outside of Apple.
That's a really good point. You are absolutely right. And it's only because I'm talking in the terms of Apple prices. If you start looking outside that, yeah, this is a weird spot they're in. So anyways, possibly no MacBook Pro update. I'm going to go in and say they're going to mention the Apple Watch. We're going to see iOS 10 announced. We're probably going to see macOS Sierra launched.
Wait, is it 10 or X?
macOS Sierra and iOS 10. Not OS 10 Sierra, not OS 10 Sierra, but it's macOS Sierra, and it's not iOS X, it's iOS 10.
Well, they could call it Weapon X.
Yeah, I wish. Is there anything?
I'm the only one who thinks that's a good idea.
Do you have iOS 10 running on anything right now?
No, I don't even have an iPhone other than a test device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My wife put hers in the toilet.
Listen to us.
So she got mine.
Listen to us. Now, there is also a spec sheet that leaked on the 31st that shows a 256 gigabyte capacity iPhone Plus.
Ooh, that might be for Christmas.
Also, earbuds may be included in the box by some package leaks that have come out of the actual phone.
Oh, that's right. No
headphone jack. Yeah. What do you think of that?
That might be a deal breaker.
I feel like it's not. Not if they include AirPods in the box. It's not a deal breaker.
Are you gonna lay that Bluetooth headphone crap on me?
No. But just first of all, look how many people you see when you just walk around with the white earbuds already. So people just be using what's in the box 80% of the time that aren't people. Not people listening to this show probably, but I mean some of them. I mean they're not bad headphones. So I just
I'm
think
on them right now, but.
Here's what I think. They're going to be Wi-Fi headphones or something like that. They're not going to be Bluetooth.
Okay, so they're not going to have like the see, I don't know what kind of bandwidth they could get over. Well, couldn't they do like an NFC thing and get a little more throughput there?
No. Because NFC is the throughput's pretty small. It's pretty low, but not only that,
smaller than Bluetooth.
Yeah, and the range is so limited. But you could do NFC for pairing or something to like do the key exchange and like link them up. You could totally use NFC for that.
I just. I have 2 Bluetooth speakers in my house, and we have one at the office. I can kind of tell. I mean,
yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I have some good experience, and I have been having a lot of Bluetooth audio issues with Android N. But that aside, I've had some good Bluetooth experiences, and I've had some really bad Bluetooth audio experiences. So there is something to do with the hardware processing, speaker quality. But the issue is
Bluetooth standards too, right?
I think Bluetooth is somewhere between. I could be totally wrong here, but I think the transfer rate's somewhere between 200 kilobits and 2 megabits, depending. And I could be even less. It's not enough. Whatever it is not enough. I would bet. But I feel like with Apple Music and iTunes, they've demonstrated, and the way they encode their files, their video and their audio files, Apple has, I think, demonstrably demonstrated that they do care about encoding quality and sound. They
do.
Like the iTunes videos, it's, as somebody who encodes video as part of his business, I got to tell you, the kind of quality they get out of the iTunes videos for the file size, because I've ripped those videos to look at see how they're doing it. I've totally broken it apart and looked how is Apple encoding this, and it's really freaking impressive what they managed to do. And the same with the audio. That's why they pioneered AAC. I think they really do have a good sense of audio quality, and so I would be shocked if they used Bluetooth. Not only that. But then they have they could have Beats, they could have Beats headphones that they announce that support whatever new wireless audio thing that they're doing. Like there's all this accessory reason to also have this new standard that is Apple certified, and they're the only ones that have the accessories at launch that support that support it. You know what I mean? Like that's perfect for them.
So what you're imagining here is some sort of ad hoc over Wi-Fi, but device-to-device network.
I don't know exactly what they'll use, but I just can't imagine they're going to use any existing Bluetooth audio standard because it's not good enough.
I agree. I feel like for a company who claims that music is in their DNA, just handing me Bluetooth headphones is I get it. If I'm streaming Google Music on my iPhone,
nice.
Sure. Once you're streaming stuff, you get what you deserve. But really, because I download the highest quality version of everything.
Right. When I'm on my phone, I'm either using Spotify where I have it all stored locally, and I get it the premium. I bought premium just so I could get the extreme quality.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So I listen to that, and I can tell the difference between extreme quality. I can tell a difference between all of the encoding qualities.
I can.
And it's why I don't have Sirius XM, because the encoding is so bad. And so for me, when I either do local FLAC level, or I do extreme quality in Spotify, and I don't like anything in between. If they go Bluetooth for headphones only, it is the end for high fidelity audio on the iPhone platform.
Okay, but how many people actually care? So, I mean, this is one
that's
of those
the problem.
Things. Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, I'm bitching about audio quality, and I have a vinyl record player right behind me.
Oh, you're that guy? No.
I am that guy. I also do, in fact, because I know we'll get the email, I do have Katy Perry on vinyl, because why not?
This is only this would be revealed on a Friday.
On a Friday, great.
Did you hear that Jessica Alba is going to join? We haven't even talked about this, but Apple has a Planet of the Apps TV show.
I really don't want to talk about.
Okay,
this.
we won't. It's just Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba.
I love Jessica Alba.
Yeah, that's
Angel, great show. Ansel too early.
Gary V's on there. I don't even know what's going on anymore, dude.
Let's make a show about people who can't make money in our marketplace.
I don't like what's happening to development here. I don't like so do you remember I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago or something, I was kind of grousing about the fact that society doesn't elevate developers and system administrators and people who create things on computers, except for maybe people at Pixar. Society doesn't elevate these types of work classes to the same position where they elevate even plumbers and electricians and other trade skill jobs that require a specialist who comes in. And I don't know if it's because they have licensing or if it's because these industries have been around for decades, but something about it leads to people not quite valuing computer work as much. And I think a large part of it's because a lot of it's conceptual. A lot of it you cannot simply, if you're not in the business, you not understand all of the work that goes into creating an application or a website. And so this kind of thing, this celebrification of development, it does not help this problem. This, in the big picture, I believe, drives software value down. And maybe I'm an old man who's yelling at Jessica Alba to get off my lawn, which
I would never.
I highly doubt that.
Tell Jessica Alba
exactly. So I don't think that's the case here, but it is possible. It is possible that I am somehow yelling at Jessica Alba to get off my lawn at this moment. But the way I see it, it seems like the dumbification and consumerification of software development. And I view that as a bad thing. I feel like we should be elevating the people that create these things to a higher stature than bringing it.
You should bring me tributes and sacrifices.
Probably. We probably should. And we should all, as a society, work together to publicly fund all software development.
You know who you really want to blame, though, and I'm just going to ignore that last.
Yeah.
Tovarich, comrade. Yes, this is Labor Day. We're together now. Please, Russian people, don't kill me. I blame the guy who plays Mark Zuckerberg in that stupid Facebook movie.
Oh,
I don't remember.
Social Network.
There was a shift, right after that movie came out and became a hit.
Wow, man, I've never thought of this. You are totally right. It does feel like that was
literally had this conversation in one of those dumb coffee lunch meetings, right? Trying to see if someone could actually be a client or if they're crazy. And 99% of the time they're crazy. It's, it can't be that hard, right? I mean, you guys just do this half drunk in a hoodie. And I mean, I don't wear hoodies. I just want to start right there. I have nothing to say about the rest of it, but I do not wear hoodies.
Are you wearing a polo right now? What are you wearing right now?
I am wearing a polo and tasteful khaki shorts.
Yep.
Because my wife threw out my jeans that had holes in them.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
So that is a great observation because that does feel about like what happened, doesn't it?
Jesse Eisenberg, thank you. Yeah, no. So the fact that developers tend to enjoy some of their work or most of their work doesn't mean it's not valuable. And also because there are dumb college kids who will do things for free doesn't mean people who could actually do it correctly are going to do it for free. Just throwing it out there. In fact, my buddy recently made the mistake of doing a WordPress site for a friend for free. He was just doing one thing. He told me, I said, never do it for free. Never, ever do it for free.
Well, I fall into that trap all the time.
Even if you charge nothing, right? Charge $50. Because once you do it as a favor, you'll get scope creep. And sure enough, calls me up, or I saw him a couple of days ago, and what happened?
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, this lady is making me crazy. I don't know what to do. She's a family friend. She won't stop calling, blah, blah, blah. And he's got hours upon hours of work, and he thinks it's going to end. It's not going to end. It's going to keep going. But if you had just charged her $50, he could say, oh, okay, you want more stuff? Yeah, well, that's a little bit more. And then say, okay, that's $500. Because then you just price her out. And that's it.
So I witnessed this, and I think I like the way this guy did this. So do you remember a while back, I attended a couple of local business groups to do business connections, and I just wanted to get a feel of what they wanted software-wise. And one of the guys at one of the meetings that I met up north was the local business website developer and maintainer guy. And you know, if you got a little storefront and you want people to look up your business hours, or you got a restaurant and you want your menu online, you're a law firm and you want your contact information and some of your references and things like that online, you talk to this guy and he throws together a website for you. And he generally does WordPress. And it's interesting to see how this guy worked because he would be like, yeah, I can consult with you. Here's my price to just help you get this going. And when people run into WordPress issues, I just recently kind of caught up with him and just see how he was doing. And what he does is he'll often maybe give them one or two answers here and there over email, but he'll very quickly say, by the way, I did a little check on your WordPress site. I found this and this problem, and I think you might want to consider this. This is a package that I offer that's sort of WordPress maintenance. And so they start running into WordPress issues, and then you just start selling them as WordPress package. And I think it was $125, and it gets you a year of WordPress updates and plugin updates and checking security on the site and doing scans and backups. Which, you think about it, that's all it really takes to keep a WordPress site really clicking. And then if you want additional stuff like custom themes and whatnot, he'll just hourly charge you. And he is living that is his full-time living. He just does this for, I think couldn't be more than 30, 40 businesses in the general Snohomish-Skagit County area, and this is his full-time gig. And the same thing is, I think he learned that you can't give away a lot of stuff for free.
Well, and those are exactly the type of people who would, ask their cousin to do it for nothing, right?
So, Mr. Dominic, we should probably wrap up, but we did have a little bit of feedback to get to before we go. Oh, there is something going on. I don't know if it's your hurricane that is blowing the winds this way, but I am hearing airplanes around my neck of the woods like nothing.
No, I sent a prank gift to Dick Cheney from your address.
Oh, that is probably going to end badly. We should probably get to this feedback then before I get bombed or droned. So,
Or Samsung. Oh,
PM Benjamin writes in, he says, with regards to the analogy that was made on the show about Docker breaking APIs, this was last week.
sure.
He says, APIs being similar to Angular v1 versus Angular v2, I respectfully disagree. Angular v1 was released in 2010. Since then, there has been a massive shift in the way front-end development is being done, namely the advent of web components that brought us features like the Shadow DOM. Angular v2 takes into technological advancements in recent years and builds on the success of Angular v1. There needs to be a breaking change in order for Angular to stay relevant and competitive against other front-end JavaScript libraries like React or Vue.js, and against other front-end JavaScript frameworks like Ember. So that was PMD.
Anything that hurts React, I think, is great. Let's just set that as table stakes.
Sure, makes sense to me. Seems reasonable.
So this is where my curmudgeon hat is going to come on again. Sure, Angular 1 showed up in 2010. I don't know that that's true, but I'll assume the guy's right. That's not that long. That's 6 years. I mean, I don't know. I feel like particularly on the front-end JavaScript side of life, things are moving at a pace that's really not sustainable. And maybe on the web browser side for Angular 1 and Angular 2, I think he has a strong point that, 6 years is long enough. Certainly the Ionic side, Ionic 1 to Ionic 2, Ionic just wasn't around or mature enough for that long. I would also add that, I don't know about the audience, but I don't get a whole lot of greenfield projects, right? So having anything with breaking changes is pretty scary and basically not tenable. For instance, I still write a lot of jQuery by force. Because someone hands me a bag of jQuery.
Yes.
In a perfect world where I had control and I could say, oh, we're going to do this thing and we're going to do it from scratch. Mm-hmm. Sure, maybe it would make sense to pick the newest, hottest, greatest thing.
Sure, yes.
And just responding to the chat, yes, if you sent me beer, I would be happy. But I was extremely happy with Ionic 1, actually. But it is very hard to sell something called Ionic 1 when they're promoting Ionic 2. And when the path to transition is basically not possible. Or let me take it back. Not easily done. How about that?
Not reasonable,
not cheap, not trivial, which is what I would need it to be.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's fair.
So I would actually answer kind of this critique. I think it is a fair critique. I think maybe my expectation of going into 6 years, especially for the web, is just not reasonable. But then what's your cutoff? Right? Mine is 5 years. I want things to be supported for 5 years. And the reason I want that is because in 5 years, the client will either leave because they're so big that they want to go enterprise and they feel like we're too small, or they'll die because they're a startup, or one of two, or they'll take it in-house, right? There's a lot of things that could happen. But in 5 years, at the end of the day, it may not be my issue anymore. Anything, certainly with some of the JavaScript frameworks of the week, and we're going to one day cover this. I know we said we would in details, and hopefully, I'd like to say next week, but we're not with all the announcements. One day, Chris, one day. Is there such a thing as too fast? That would be my question to the audience. And if there is, where do you draw the line? Because I don't feel like the writer necessarily disagrees completely. I think he's saying that 6 years is very long for the web. So let's say 6 years is very long. Then what is your minimum support timeline? Like I've stated that mine is 5 years. I know a lot of people are going to email and say that that's not reasonable. But what is reasonable then? It's certainly not 1 year. Right. I mean,
maybe it is. Maybe it is, actually.
If I'm a customer, I am not letting you tell me that you need to redo this every year.
But it's not your fault. You're just telling me.
I'm dealing with jQuery from 2008 still, right? Because that's what the customer's application was written in. And, they're not going to rewrite the whole thing. They don't want to. It would be great. It'd be great sale to close. But I guess where did we go? This is almost like the MacBook thing, right? Where did we go from this is a full system that you're building for somebody that needs to, have a 5 to 10 year life cycle. Then we went down to 5 years, I would say in the late 90s or early 2000s.
Mhm.
And now we're saying as an industry, but only on the front end website of things apparently, that, oh yeah, that's not cool anymore. It's been 6 months. Does it make sense? I mean, you can tell me, Chris, is this me putting on my, overalls and sitting on the porch with a rifle?
Yelling at Jessica Alba again?
Yeah, I would never raise my voice to Jessica Alba. That's, by the way, that is when I would be happy. For the person asking in the chat room.
I'll tell you one thing is reality. This is what I do know, Mike. I do know that running a business on the internet is like nothing like running a business that has a storefront with a 9 to 5 or whatever it is hours. The internet never stops. It never stops evolving. The technology that delivers all of it, but also the demands of the users of it never change. So I don't know. A year? Yeah, I can't think of a single major web quote unquote app or platform that I use that doesn't get updates that are just major.
I'm not saying updates, right? I'm saying obviously you update.
No, I know what you mean.
Like
I'm saying
changing the stack.
Yes, well,
right.
Not the entire stack. No, okay. Okay, you're right about that.
There's so much in the browser. I mean, you can't just say, you're just changing the front end.
I feel like the problem is this is the tax of this industry right now because it is changing and evolving so rapidly. There may be a point where this settles out, but there is so much. The problem is there is so much still to improve that it's going to be like this for a while.
Well, and there's also a strong conversation, particularly on the Angular side, about Angular 2's apparent love affair with TypeScript. Is that actually a feature? Trying to bring that classical inheritance into JavaScript, and the ECMA 6 stuff on the same thing, right? Because ECMA 6 is going to have classes. Is this really the direction we ought to be going? Because I remember 2 years ago, all kind of the web hipsters were saying you need to embrace JavaScript for JavaScript. It's prototypical inheritance. You stop trying to turn it into Java, right? And all of a sudden, hey, let's turn it into Java because we need TypeScript and we need classes and we need all this stuff. I don't know. I'm one thing you could say is I'm very consistent in my skepticalness about particularly TypeScript and Dart and any of those. I hate CoffeeScript. I've been pretty vocal about that. But CoffeeScript is kind of gone, right? It's in Rails, but I really don't see it often. I don't think anybody's using Dart for anything serious. So TypeScript, thanks to Angular 2 and Ionic using it, if you don't know, TypeScript is Microsoft's superset of JavaScript that adds a bunch of stuff, type checking, classical inheritance, blah, 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 which aren't bad. But it does some really interesting things when you're not in a Microsoft platform to like translate into JavaScript and work that I'm not so sure are sound. When really, JavaScript's not that bad, right? If you don't do stupid things, you can do a lot with pure vanilla JavaScript these days, and you can pull in libraries as you need them. But again, that is a super old man position of put your toys away. So this is for another week.
I think you're TypeScript. No, I think you're right. I think you're probably we probably could. But I don't disagree with you from the standpoint of wanting to be able to sell something that is not only A, sellable and like conceivable by the customer, but B, supportable by you as a small business. So I appreciate the position that you speak from. Coderradio.reddit.com is where you go to submit stories or projects or show content ideas there. Mr. Dominic, there might be a website you want to send folks to throughout the week.
Go to buccaneer.io.
Oh, well, all right then. I think I will. Thank you. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisLAS. You can follow the network at Jupiter Signal. If you'd like to know when the Coder Radio program is live, we'll be back on Monday next week. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. It gets it converted to your local time zone. Send us feedback, jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. And don't forget those RSS feeds where you can subscribe and just get this show every single week and beam us directly into your new wireless earbuds powered by some fancy schmancy Apple technology, I'm sure. Rest in peace, earphones. I miss you already. See you next week.